Hello, fifth graders. I hope you guys are having a great Thursday. This is your English video for your work text page that you have to do today, and it is all about using commas. So we're going to talk about when we use commas. There are certain times and certain places in sentences that we want to put a comma, and sometimes where we don't want to put a comma. So we want to make sure that those are not misplaced. So as I go through this, we're actually going to do the front and the back together, which is a little different than what we do in class, but that way you get lots of practice with me since the guided practice on the bottom is so short, and then you'll be able to practice on your own when you do your extra practice sheet. So at the very top, it has the word comma in blue, and it says a comma is used to show a pause in writing. If a sentence is read aloud, there is a natural pause in your voice when you come to a comma. This helps the listener to understand more clearly what is being spoken or written. So that is why we use a comma. And then down here, I'm going to pull my page up so you can see all of the rules for why and where we use commas. So as you're doing your extra practice sheet and as we do this sheet together, we want to make sure our commas follow these rules. And we can reference back to this to make sure that our commas are going in the right place. So the first one says that we should use one after the greeting and the closing in our letters. So when we write a friendly letter or a business letter, we would write dear whoever it's to. In this case, it says Mary, and then we would put a comma after the greeting. Then we would write sincerely. Sometimes we write your friend or thank you, and we would write a comma after the closing. The second one is when we use them in dates between the number of the day and the year. So this says October 21st, comma, 1942. Then down here, we will also use it between a city and a state. So Columbus, comma, Georgia, and many times the state will actually be abbreviated, and it's an abbreviated form. This time they actually wrote it out, but there will be a comma between there even if the state is abbreviated. We also use it in a series. So this would be kind of like if we're making a list of things, we would say it's in a series. So we saw butterflies, moths, and dragonflies, and we would put a comma in between each of those items. Number 5 says we would use it in a compound sentence before the conjunction. Let's go ahead and we're going to put a nice cloud around the word before. Make sure you put that cloud around your word before. We've got a little bit of trouble with that, making sure it goes before the conjunction and not after. Remember, our conjunctions are and, or, and but. So this says Andrea likes furry animals, comma, but she does not like insects. Then down here at the bottom, we would also use it in dialogue. So when somebody is talking and we're putting quotation marks, at the end of the quotation mark, we would put a comma before the last quotation. So it says, I'm collecting insects for a project, Tim explained. And notice for each of these last three, there's a natural pause. We saw butterflies, moths, and dragonflies. Andrea likes furry animals, but she does not like insects. I'm collecting insects for a project, Tim explained. So we naturally pause in each one of those situations where we put a comma. And you'll see that on this side of your page as well. In a direct address, Tim, may I look at your insect collection? Would you mind, Tim, if I looked at your insect collection? Or may I look at your insect collection, Tim? This one we would put a comma before and after Tim's name because we pause before it and we pause after it. The one at the top, we just put it after, and then the one at the bottom, we would put before his name because there's a natural pause in our voice. Number 8 says, We would do this after introductory words such as yes, no, and well. So a lot of times we have questions that we have to answer, and it's a yes or no question. And many of you I see a lot sometimes will put yes and then a period, or no and then a period. We can actually put yes and then explain our answer, or no and explain our answer. So this one says, yes, I will come. No, I cannot come. Well, I will try to come. And notice after each of those three, there's a natural pause, so we put our comma there. Number 9 says, after a long introductory phrase of 5 or more words. When I tried to catch the grasshopper, it hopped away. So we have more than 5 words here, and then we have a comma. We tell what it did afterwards. And then finally, to separate a possessive form of the word that it renames. Mr. Stanley, the naturalist, works at the museum. So in between here, we rename Mr. Stanley as the naturalist. So we put a comma before and after what we rename him, similar to how we would do if we had a name in the middle. Well, let's look down here. A lot of these rules are a lot easier to figure out when we do them, and we do them frequently. So on the guided practice on your bottom, it says fill in the circle next to each sentence that uses commas correctly. So both sentences say the same thing. What I would encourage you to do is read the sentence and see where your voice naturally pauses. Dragonflies like to live near water, but moths do not. Okay, so the top one has the comma here, but moths do not. And the bottom one has the comma here. Dragonflies like to live near water, but moths do not. Dragonflies like to live near water, but moths do not. Well, if we go back to our sentences, we know that this top one is a compound sentence, and we have a connecting word here. And so this one would be our correct answer. So we want to fill that bubble in there. Make sure it's nice and filled in. It's good practice for our standardized testing that we take. Number 2 says, the top one says, yes, I know that dragonflies eat mosquitoes. Or, yes, I know that dragonflies eat mosquitoes. Well, if we put the comma here, it really splits our sentence up kind of funky, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes, I know that dragonflies eat mosquitoes. Or it makes a lot more sense to split it up right after the word yes, and that goes with rule number 8 up here. Yes, I know that dragonflies eat mosquitoes. So the bottom one would be our correct answer. Rule number 9 helps us with that one. For the top one, rule number 5 would help us with that one, and even rule number 9 as well. Let's come down here to number 3. We're going to use the proofreading caret mark a lot because we're going to add commas where they need to be. So number 3 says, in the butterfly house at the museum, we could observe live insects. So we want to think about where our voice naturally pauses. So let me read that one more time. In the butterfly house at the museum, we could observe live insects. So we're going to put our comma right here after the word museum. So we're going to put a little caret there, and we're going to put our comma underneath to add in a comma. So it says, in the butterfly house at the museum, we could observe live insects. So here this would follow rule number 9, where it's got several words, 5 or more words, and then we need a comma to tell what we did at the butterfly house. Number 4 says, the monarch, an orange and black butterfly, migrates hundreds of miles. So for number 4, we're actually going to put our commas after monarch, And then the second place we're going to put it is between butterfly and migrates. And we do this because, in a sense, they're using rule number 10 to rename what the monarch is. It's an orange and black butterfly. So we have to put that in between our commas. The monarch, an orange and black butterfly, migrates hundreds of miles. Really, this is an added bit of information, and we could do without it in our sentence and it would make sense, which is why we've got these commas here to kind of section it out. Number 5 says, monarch caterpillars have yellow, black, and white stripes. So I want to see if you can figure out which rule up here that one is going to follow, and go ahead and pause the video and put your commas in where you think they belong. And then once you've got your commas, hit the unpause and see if you got them right. All right, you should have commas here in number 5 where you think they belong, and we're going to see if you got them in the right places. So monarch caterpillars have yellow, comma, black, comma, and white stripes. This follows rule number 4 with words in a series or in a list. So if you have those two commas in the right place, I want you to go ahead and put a smiley face by the number 5. If you did not get those two commas in the right place, go ahead and circle the number 5. That way I know how you did on that. So a smiley face if you got it, and a circle if you did not. And then if you didn't get it correct, make sure you go ahead and fix it and put them where they belong. Now we're going to flip our paper over, and we're going to work on the back together. The front was very, very short, and I think working on the back will give us a better, a little bit more practice so that we have a good handle on this. Numbers 1 through 4, the directions say, fill in the circle next to each sentence that uses commas correctly. So the first one says, no, that is not a twig. The second one says, no, that is not a twig. Well, if you need help, you can always flip back over and you can see that this one is going to follow rule number 8. It has the word no as an answer to the question and then a comma. So we're going to fill in the bottom one. No, that is not a twig. Number 2 says, Jim can a walking stick's, I'm going to read the first one. It's hard not to put, you probably already know which one it is because it's hard not to put the pauses in when you're reading it. Jim, can a walking stick's legs grow back after they fall off? Jim, can a walking stick's legs grow back after they fall off? Well, hopefully you could tell by my struggle of reading the top one that the bottom one is the correct answer. That one, if you look on the front, is going to follow rule number 7. It's a direct address. We're talking to Jim and we're asking him a question. So the bottom one is going to be our correct answer. I want you to see if you can do 3 and 4, and you can flip back to the front of your page if you're not super sure, just to look at your rules on the front. And if you can do 3 and 4 by yourself, and then go ahead and hit pause, and once you're done, hit the unpause. All right, you should have 3 and 4 done, and we're going to see how you did. We're going to do the same thing we did on the front. If you get these correct, I want you to put a smiley face next to 3 and a smiley face next to 4. And if you don't get them right, go ahead and fix your mistake and then just circle 3 and 4, whichever one you didn't get correct. So number 3 says, walking stick's legs can grow back, answered Jim. This one says, walking stick's legs can grow back, answered Jim. Well, if we look back at our rules, we know that the comma comes before the quotation marks at the end of somebody speaking. So that would make the top one the correct one. So if you got it right, smiley face. If not, fix it and circle. Number 4 says, young walking sticks are green and older ones are brown. This one says, young walking sticks are green and older ones are brown. Hopefully you picked the top one. That second one, the comma is in a very weird place for you to pause and make yourself kind of slow down in the middle of the sentence. It sounds very awkward when we pause after young walking sticks, unless we were addressing them. So if you want to talk to young walking sticks, I suppose you could. I don't know that they'll answer you very much though. All right, let's look down here and we're going to proofread this letter. Now, the only thing that's going to be wrong are going to be, what does it say? The 17 missing commas. That's a lot of commas. And this is very short. This is not a long letter. So we see even just in that commas are really crucial and important. So it says use the proofreading mark with the caret to add 17 commas where they are needed in the letter. Well, we're going to start up at the top and we start with the address because there will be some commas in the address. We have 225 Bramble Lane, Columbia, comma, South Carolina, 29154. That comma is perfectly in the right spot. Then we have April 16, 2005. Well, we know from our rules on the front and from writing the date that our comma goes in between 16th and 2005. Down here, we want to put a comma right after Susie, Dear Susie, because that's the introduction to our letter. Then it says, let me tell you about what happened with my insect collection last week. I've been collecting insects for Mr. Farley, my science teacher. Well, we paused after Mr. Farley because when we say my science teacher, we're giving him a new name. We're renaming him as my science teacher, which means there needs to be a comma there. I spent all semester finding bugs, Susie. Well, here we're addressing Susie. We're putting her name at the end, so we need a comma before her name. I asked my mom, my dad, my sister, and my cousins to help me. Well, that one I think is the easy one to find where commas need. That's a nice long series or a nice long list. So we're going to say I asked my mom, comma, my dad, comma, my sister, comma, and my cousins to help me. That's a lot of commas just in one sentence. Then the second paragraph says, well, I finished it, but ants ate my collection 2 days before it was due. Well, that one needs one right after the word well. Well, I finished it, but we have a conjunction there. Ants ate my collection 2 days before it was due. Then it says, they ate the Luna moth, the dragonfly, the rhinoceros beetle, and everything else. So again, we see here we have a nice list or a series. So we're going to put commas in between each of those items. They ate the Luna moth. That's the first item. The dragonfly. That's the second one. The rhinoceros beetle. Those are fun. And everything else. No, I didn't fail my assignment, but I had to stay up all night with a flashlight catching more bugs. So in that sentence, we have an answer. No, I didn't fail my assignment. And then we have a conjunction. But I had to stay up all night with my flashlight, catching more bugs. Then this next sentence says, I didn't keep any of the mosquitoes, the insect I saw the most. So again here, we're going to put a comma after mosquitoes because we're renaming mosquitoes as the insect I saw the most. So we want our comma there. Then the last sentence says, when you come over, I'll show you my bug collection. So that was a little trickier. We're going to put the comma in between over and I'll. When you come over, I'll show you my bug collection. It's kind of a cause and effect there. So when this happens, this is what I will do. And we naturally pause right there. Then the last thing we have is our closing. Your friend, Allison. And we know we always want a comma after our closing. Now we're going to count up our commas and make sure we got all 17 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We sure did. So that is good to go. Great job. Now down here on the apply and write, it says answer each of the following questions with a complete sentence using the introductory word yes or no. That means you need to say yes and explain, or you need to say no and explain. So the first one says, do you like insects? So you'll write yes, comma, and tell me why, or you'll write no, comma, and tell me why. Then the last one says, have you ever caught a butterfly or moth? So your answer to that will be yes or no, comma, and then you're going to describe it or explain where you caught it. So if you have caught one, you can say yes, and it looked, yes, I caught a butterfly or I caught a monarch butterfly, I caught a butterfly with beautiful wings. Or you can say, yes, I caught the butterfly in my yard. So you have two choices. You can either describe it or you can explain where you caught it. Either a butterfly or a moth. Make sure you tell me, yes, I caught a butterfly, or yes, I caught a moth. If you have not found a butterfly or a moth before, you're going to write no, comma, I have not caught a butterfly or a moth. All right, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I really encourage you when you go to do your extra practice page to use these rules on the front. They will be extremely helpful. And reading things out loud is also very helpful because your voice will naturally pause when you're going to put a comma in. So when you read things out loud, maybe read it once just to make sure you've got all the words and you know what it says, and then go back and read it again with good expression, and that will help you to see where your voice naturally pauses when you're reading those things. But definitely keep these 10 rules in mind. Some of them I think you guys already know you're very good at, and some of them might be newer to you as well. So good luck on your extra practice page. Tomorrow's English page is a cumulative review. So you can do that one all on your own. There won't be a video for it. I will say though, you'll want to be extra careful on number 1 and really think about your subject on number 1 for your paper tomorrow. All right, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.